What's happening, my beautiful financiers in training? Welcome back to the Do.Different.Better Show, where we talk about wealth, wisdom, and money moves, making finance simple for everyday people. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, CEO and founder of Social Impact Now, Connective Institute, and managing director of the Integrated Capital Fund. We have been on an extended hiatus, and I want to apologize to all of you listeners. I have been very, very sick for the past 2 months, and I have been in bed, often with no voice to speak of. But I am fine now, and I am back to life, and I'm so excited to be with all of you again. Quick note before we dive into this episode, which, as you can see from my regalia, is our first show of 2026. So I want to wish all of you a happy and prosperous new year. But I also want to share with you that you can catch the Do.Different.Better Show on AM 950 radio. They are bringing these conversations about money and power and ownership to listeners across the Twin Cities and beyond. And if you're someone who likes to see the conversation, not just hear it, make sure you're following the show on YouTube, where I share full episodes, extended reflections, and visuals you won't hear on the radio. Just go over to Do.Different.Better or Do Better with Elaine. So with no further ado, let's get into it. But before we do anything else today, I want us to slow down for a moment. Not because we're behind, but because we rarely give ourselves permission to pause. This year went fast. For many of us, it wasn't just busy, it was heavy. And if you're listening to this thinking, I learned a lot this year, but I'm also exhausted, I want you to know that makes absolute perfect sense. So today's episode is going to be different. This isn't a tutorial. It's not a masterclass. It's not a hot take. This is a pause, a reflection, a reset. As we close out 2025 and step into a new year, I want to create some space, not just rush forward, but to actually look back at what we actually learned. Because growth doesn't come from consuming more. It comes from integration. Integrating the past with the future, our successes with our challenges, our intelligence with our intuition. So today, we're going to do 3 things. I'm going to take a look back at some of the themes that shaped this past year, not only the Do.Different.Better Show, but what I heard from all of you. I'm also going to talk about why I created Do.Different.Better Live on January 18th. I also want to give you a preview of where the show is headed, including a new Instagram mini-series, which I'm very excited about. But no fluff, no urgency, just clarity. So let's get into it. So here are the 4 themes I noticed this year, not just on the show, but in some conversations that I had with you all out in the world, especially our listeners. There was really a cognitive overload, and that is not to be underestimated. People weren't confused because they had lack of intelligence. They were overwhelmed because they were trying to hold too much all at once. I'll be honest. There were moments this year when even I had to stop and ask myself, am I adding clarity or am I just adding content? Because more information doesn't always equal more confidence. Sometimes it just adds pressure. So here are what I hope were some big takeaways and themes that resonated for me and hopefully for you. If I had to describe 2025 in one sentence, it would be this. We've stopped pretending that money is neutral. So here's theme number 1. Money is a tool, not a trophy. We talked a lot about this year, especially with the tools that I shared with you. Special purpose vehicles, holding companies, employee ownership, impact investing, and a whole lot of more. And at first glance, this can sound very intimidating or even aspirational. But the real lesson wasn't the structure. The real lesson was stop using money as a measuring stick for your self-worth. Money isn't a trophy you win. It's a tool that you use. And tools are meant to serve you, not define you. Theme number 2. The system is designed, which means it can be understood. We also spend time pulling back the curtain on policy codes, opportunity zones, and big federal bills with big bureaucratic names that sound beautiful and that have outcomes that are very, very complicated. Here's the shift many listeners experience. They stopped asking, why does this feel so hard? And started asking, who was this system designed for? And that is a powerful question. And once you realize that the system is designed, not randomly, you can actually create some agency and you can't unsee it. Confusion is profitable. Complexity is a feature and clarity is power. Understanding the rules doesn't necessarily make you greedy. It makes you informed. Theme number 3. Ownership changes everything. Income pays bills. Ownership builds futures. This year, we talked about what it actually means to own a business, assets, and your decisions. And sometimes at your own pace. And that pace is exactly where you need to be, and it is okay. Ownership also doesn't mean buying something tomorrow. Sometimes it means restructuring what you already have, renegotiating your role or position, or simply deciding to stop outsourcing your thinking. And theme number 4. Here's the truth we don't say out loud often enough. What did you learn this year about your relationship with money? Not what podcasts you listened to, not what article you saved or bookmarked or posted. The emotional side of money is the real work. Most people don't struggle with money because they're bad at math, although they may have been something that they've been conditioned to think about themselves, myself included. People struggle because money is tied so much to identity. It's inextricably tied to shame, fear, burnout, and definitely what we are seeing a particular high amount of is imposter syndrome. If this show helped you feel less alone in that matters, and that is a success that you should celebrate and take with you into 2026 and beyond. Because learning is only the first step. So, as we start to bring this first segment of the show to a close, if you're ending this year thinking, I know more, I see more, that's actually the real growth. And growth asks something of us, which brings me to the next segment. I want to talk about why learning alone isn't enough and why I created space for integration on January 18th. You're listening to the Do Different Better Show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, and I will see you after the break. Welcome back. You're listening to the Do.Different.Better Show, and I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. Let me say something that might sound strange coming from someone with a podcast. Podcasts are great for awareness. They are terrible for action on your own. And I say that as somebody who lives in this medium. The pattern I kept seeing over and over and over again, and hearing actually from all of you and all of the conferences where I spoke and people came up afterwards and to tell me about their thoughts about the show and how it helped them or it didn't help them. The pattern I kept seeing was over the past year, I was hearing some of the same things from listeners in DMs, in emails, in conversations after events. People would say, I finally understand this. I see why my strategy isn't working. Or I realize I didn't have a strategy at all. Or I don't feel crazy anymore. Or I now have a way to talk to my partner about what's happening with me and why I might be responding or participating in conversations about money the way that I do. But then I had to actually pause because understanding something and doing something with it are two very different things. Most of the people listening to this show are not necessarily beginners. You're smart, you're capable, and many of you are high earners, or at least on your way to being a high earner. You're ambitious and you're looking to move to that next level. You have dreams, you have aspirations, and you're putting in the work to be able to achieve those things. Your problem is not access to information. There's a ton of it out there. Your problem is that you've been trying to integrate very complex financial ideas all on your own, in between meetings, family responsibilities, and life. And you may not have a good relationship with trusting since we have so much of a guru culture as it relates to content that's available for you to consume. That's not a discipline issue. That's a design issue. Consumption feels productive, but integration also feels uncomfortable. Integration requires slowing down. And we know that in particularly a Western culture, a U.S. context, slowing down is the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be going faster. You should be getting more done. But no one ever tells you how, and that's because it's impossible. But integration requires slowing down, naming what the trade-offs are going to be, because there is almost always going to be trade-offs. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad. It is that you are actually making thoughtful choices and accepting that you are going to get to one place or do one thing at the expense of another. Everything has an opportunity cost. If you decide to go to the movies, that means you can't stay at home and spend time with your pet. If you decide that you're going to go out into the world and pursue one particular industry as a job or as a business, then you can't do something else. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It just means that you've now made a choice, and that choice comes with also specific tactics or strategies that you cannot do if you want to do something else, right? You also are going to have to admit what you're avoiding. Avoiding talking to your spouse, avoiding talking to your parents, avoid sitting in silence with yourself. And it also means that you are going to choose what matters now, not someday in the future. That is hard to do in isolation. And we as human beings don't like to be alone for the most part. Some of us do like being alone, but even I would argue with some barricades, some boundaries around that. We are social creatures, and maybe we like to retreat at times, but there is some innate genetic part of our code that wants some connection, some community, something to tap into with other like-minded people, places, and spaces, right? And for all of this, it is the reason why I created the Do Different Better live event. The Do Different Better live event exists because I wanted to create the opposite of most financial spaces. Not something that was louder, not something that's going to be faster, not something that's going to be more impressive, but actually more useful. What this event is not, and let me be very clear about who this is for and who it is not for. It is not for people looking for a magic answer, a get-rich-quick scheme, or anything like that. It is not for people who want to be told exactly what to do. It is not for people who want to perform expertise. If you're looking for hype, there are plenty of other places for that. This room is for people who are ready to think honestly, people who are tired of pretending that they're fine financially, people who want fewer strategies that actually are going to move them forward, not more information. This is for people who want alignment and not acceleration. I've been in some of those rooms where everyone sounded smart and no one was actually changing anything. I've also been in rooms where people slowed down, they told the truth, and made decisions that changed the trajectory of their lives. This event is built from the second kind of room. So what happens if you come to the Do Different Better Live? When you leave Do Different Better Live, you won't leave with just a binder. You're going to leave with clarity about where you actually are. You're going to be given some language to talk about money without shame. And you're going to be given, and you're actually going to participate in creating a 90-day plan that fits your capacity, your relationships, and don't require posture, but actually sits in the moment of where you are right now. And where you are right now is okay. Where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. And it is being clear about that allows you to create the step ladder to where you're going and a clear path of what that step ladder needs to look like. And because so many of you found this show through AM 950, I want to say thank you. So this Sunday only, I'm offering a 15% flash discount as a discount to you, all of our AM 950 community. So here's what you want to do. You're going to want to go over to www.do.Different.Better.com and you can use the code AM950 at checkout. There's no pressure. It's just an open door. I want you to know that you're going to be in a very like-minded, safe, secure community. We are going to have 3 amazing speakers. We're going to have the CEO of NextFem Financial, Luana Whitmore, who has been on the show. If you listen to her, that episode is absolutely amazing. She's an incredible, powerful human being, and she is really going to be one of our top speakers at this event. You're definitely going to get a chance to hear from me and see me. And we also have somebody who's going to be a wealth image identity coach. She is going to talk about, okay, once we now work through all the outside, we're all worked on the inside. She's now going to talk about what does it look like on the outside and making sure that your new wealth identity that you're creating, your outside matches your inside. So I am super excited and bringing these 3 folks, Moonshine Stylist, Dr. Luana Whitmore, who's the CEO of NextFem Financial, and me to the space for you to be able to have this powerful one-day deep dive. We're going to have great food. We're going to have a great space. It's going to be amazing, right? So I hope that you decide to join us because it's going to be super, super powerful. It is going to be an active time. We also are going to be hosting an Ask Me Anything. You'll be able to talk to Ask Dr. Luana Whitmore and myself. We'll be having a sort of fireside chat where you can ask all the questions that you never wanted to ask. This is going to be a cozy space. We're going to be over at the Coven in the Twin Cities. And this is such an amazing, beautiful space that we're going to be hanging out in. It's going to be catered. So we're going to treat you well. You're going to have good food, good conversation, some really grounded activities to help you propel you forward. But now it's also going to be an opportunity for you to start your hashtag wealth circle, right? So the other part of this is now being connected to a group of peers. Maybe you only find one person in this group. This group is not going to be a cohort, right? But you might find one or two or three people where you're saying, hey, now that we've gone through this together, maybe let's continue to check in with one another. Maybe let's create an accountability partnership so that we can help check in and support each other through the good times and then maybe more challenging parts of moving your wealth strategy into action. So I hope that you will consider joining us. It's going to be a fun time. There's going to be lots of great gifts that are going to be provided. I'm going to just tell you right now, the swag bag is amazing. But if you're listening on AM 950, I want you to know this conversation continues and the full video episode and extended reflections are going to be on the YouTube Live where you can engage on your own time after you've already listened to the show on the radio. Maybe you're listening to it in your car. Maybe you're listening it on the train heading into work, the light rail, or wherever you may be, and then follow up by watching the actual full episode on YouTube at Do Different Better. You can also see clips on my Instagram at Do Better with Elaine. So as we bring this segment to a close, again, I want to reiterate, this isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters and with intention. In the last segment, I want to talk about where the show is headed next because we are just getting started. I can't wait to tell you all the things that we're going to be doing. And I'm still want to hear from you. I would love to see your comments on the YouTube channel. You can also send me DMs on Instagram at Do Better with Elaine. You can also send me emails at hello@do-different-better.com. I really want to hear how the show has helped you, what kinds of things you would like me to talk about, where do you want to see me spend more time, less time? What does it look like? Please, please, please definitely share all that information with me. But again, January 18th, 2026, join us at the Do Different Better live event. You can go and register at www.do-different-better.com. There's a registration link, and don't forget to use the discount code that is only good on Sunday. It opens at Sunday at 12 o'clock in the morning and then closes at midnight on Sunday. So don't do that thing that you do and wait. Act now. There's nothing like the 3-second rule. Act now to get registered to actually start off 2026 right by getting your money strategy together. So I will see you online, but I will also see you after the break. Welcome back to the Do Different Better Show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. Now, You've been following me on this journey. We talked about in segment 1, we did a really deep reflection about what have we accomplished? What are some of the themes that occurred not only in the show, but in what we heard from all of you as far as the information overload that you're taking in, the exhaustion of just all of the activities, not only personally, but all out in the world, all of these things. And then particularly trying to get your financial life in order has just been overwhelming and heavy, to say the least. In segment 2, I shared with you how I took all of that and said, hey, you know what? Learning this information just isn't enough. We need to create some very powerful, safe spaces to be able to not only unpack some of those feelings, but now turn it into action in a very safe community. And that goes to the Do Different Better live event on January 18th, where you can start to be able to activate your wealth consciousness and activate your wealth circle by being in a room with like-minded people with, by the way, some really great food at a really great venue with some other really great speakers who I'm excited to bring into your space, especially as it relates to my partnership with NextFem Financial and Moonshine Stylists. So, as we now close out this episode and this year, I want to talk to you about what's next for the show. And I don't want to do this in a like, hype me up kind of way, not in a new year, new you kind of way, but I really want to think about and transmitting being grounded and being very intentional. Over the past year, something became very, very clear to me. That people listening to this show did not necessarily need more information. You need actually containment. You're smart. You're capable. But intelligence doesn't protect you from feeling overwhelming anxiety. Waking up on Monday morning with the Monday blues of like, what am I doing? Where am I going? And being reminded of, as you drive into your parking lot at your office, looking at all these other cars that are what you perceive as nicer than yours and feeling inadequate before you even walk in the office door. Or the Sunday scaries of going to bed at night thinking like, well, what happens if I go in tomorrow and there is no job? I don't want to even look at my bank account. I'm hoping that I'm going to provide you, my goal is to provide you with conversations and tips and frameworks that are actually going to help mitigate that anxiety and overwhelm and provide you with some agency for you to be able to do something, because the power of reducing that anxiety and overwhelm is action. I can promise you. And a lot of times more information is just going to make you feel worse. And we don't want that. So in 2026, the Do Different Better Show is going to get sharper. And this is what that means. That means that there's going to be fewer ideas per episode. We're going to deal with one core tension at a time. I'm going to work to provide you with some very clear frameworks. And I also want to provide you with more space to think. We're not just chasing the algorithm, but looking to build very deep understanding that can drive powerful action towards the wealth goals that you've set for yourself or the wealth strategy that you're looking to put into place. Next year, this show will wrestle with questions like, what happens when income stops feeling like safety? How do I build wealth without burning out and feeling inadequate and feeling overwhelmed or feeling behind? What does ownership look like for me, especially if I don't fit the stereotype? There are so many options and ways to do this, no matter what your goals are, no matter what you're trying to accomplish. We're going to wrestle with the question of, how do I make decisions when my brain doesn't like linear thinking? I'm a creative spirit. I'm a creative soul. I'm a left brain person. How do I actually engage in this when I don't necessarily think in boxes and ones and zeros? These aren't just academic questions. These are lived questions. And that brings me to something that is deeply, deeply personal and probably long overdue. I am going to be launching a new Instagram mini-series called Chronicles of a Neurodivergent Black Woman in Finance. For a long time, I have wanted to be palatable in financial spaces. And I tried to be linear. I tried to be all the things that we think about when we think about colonization, we think about assimilation, always certain. But here's the truth, a long time ago, I got tired of that version. And I think you saw some of that come out in the show. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it to the next level. Finance is built around a very specific type of brain, one that loves spreadsheets, one that loves certainty, one that loves constant optimization. But many of us don't work that way. We are intuitive thinkers. We recognize patterns. We might be big picture processors. And too often we're made to feel like that's a flaw, or these things don't align or match, right? Or even being more creative. There is actually a part of being creative that is very, very great and fits aligned with financing and wealth strategy building. And so it is so amazing that we are going to bring all of that in. This miniseries isn't about advice. It's really more about documentation. And my goal is that you're going to see moments of clarity, moments of doubt, mine as well as others. You'll start to see how strategy meets overwhelmed, but also how brilliance and messiness have to coexist. There is no way around it. And especially for my maybe Gen Z and maybe younger millennials, there is, even within finance, a messiness that exists. There's no way around it. If you're the kind of person who just wants a very clear, pathway that is tried and true and replicable, there is some of that, but a lot of it is science meeting art, right? And there are paths and there are guardrails, but even within those guardrails, you have creativity. Think about a canvas. A canvas, if you're a painter, is limiting because you only have the space of that canvas. But the creative part is you have all the space that's on the canvas, even the edges. You get to create. It is a blank slate that you get to create within the boundary of the lived canvas, right? No polish. So the mini series is not necessarily going to be, I'm not always going to look great. I'm not always going to be super, super polished. I'm not going to be looking to be performative. It's going to just be the truth. And representation isn't about being seen. It's about permission to move at your own pace, to question dominant narratives, to build wealth without becoming someone else or something else. And if this series helps one person to stop thinking there is something wrong with me, then it's doing its job. I'm doing my job. And that's something that's super, super important to me. So how do all this connect? You're like, Elaine, you're on team Do Too Much. And you already know that about me. I've told that to you, right? But here's what I do want you to understand. The podcast, the live event, and there'll be other types of events that I'll be putting on later in the year. The IG series, these are actually not separate things. They're different entry points into the same work, right? Think of it this way. Instagram is where we name the experience. The podcast is where we create clarity. And the live events are where we integrate and decide and build community. You don't need to do it all. You just need to choose what supports you right now in this moment. And there's also, if you want to go even deeper, maybe not louder, you can catch my full episodes on my YouTube channel, which is Do Different Better. And that's where you can actually pause, rewind, reflect, share, right? Maybe you shared with your partner. Maybe you shared with a good friend of yours, whether they're in town or they're overseas. You can watch it together and have really great conversations, spark some thinking about how might you approach some of the things that I'm sharing with you in different ways and places and spaces, right? How is the context of where you are different? And that might have to influence or change your perspective and how you're thinking about something. But again, going on the YouTube channel gives you an opportunity to pause, rewind, reflect, and engage on your own time. It's really at a very different pace and it's very individualized. And for many of you, it might be a better one, right? And it could be in conjunction with anything else that I've shared with you. So, as we step into this new year, I want to leave you with this message. You are not behind. You are not broken. And you don't need to become someone else to build a meaningful financial life. If you want to reflect, stay with the podcast. If you want to see yourself, follow the Instagram series. And if you're ready to integrate and build community, join me on January 18th for our premiere event. You can learn more about Do Different Better Live at www.do.Different.Better.com. And again, for our AM 950 community, remember, this Sunday only, you can use the code AM 950 for 15% off registration. The seats are limited. So, and I do not encourage you to be able to register on the day of. Buy your ticket in advance. One, the ticket price is going to be more at the door, and we do have limited space. So keep that in mind. Just do it now. Smash the button and make sure you get registered so you don't get left behind. Remember, you're going to be starting 2026 strong. But I do want to give my heartfelt thanks to all the sponsors of this show. I want to give thanks to AM 950 for continuing to be a partner with me, particularly over these last couple of months where I've been very, very ill. I want to thank all of you who've spent time with me at all the places that you've seen me, who've welcomed me, who've said great things to me over the past year. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for questioning. I want to thank you for staying curious. You are all amazing, and I can't wait to see and hear what you do with all of the information and all the community and all the activation that you are going to have that I am wishing upon every single one of you for 2026 and beyond. This is the Do Different Better Show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, and I want you to stay grounded, stay intentional, and I will see you in the next chapter.